Liverpool finding out the hard way that the thing about late winners is other teams can score them too. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, live by the late winner, die by the late winner. And it turns out that all of this stuff about destiny and the champions, the hallmark of champions is playing terribly and winning it late. It turns out that may not be the hallmark of champions. And actually, the hallmark of champions is just playing well every game, and eventually the results will come. Where in fact, when you play poorly every game, then what happens is eventually all the luck that you had runs out and other teams get some of that luck, and you wind up watching Enzo Maresca go nuts on the touchline while everyone says it's beautiful to see him doing it in the same exact way they said the direct opposite about Mikel Arteta when he did it. But I'm not bitter, and we're not going to open on that point. I will tell you this, my friends, for the next 2 weeks, no matter the results in football, Arsenal Football Club will be top of the league. We are top of the league, and we will remain top of the league. And my feeling is that that is where we will sit every single day for the rest of the season. So enjoy it. A nice, peaceful run to an effortless Premier League title as expected. So it is a beautiful, beautiful day to be an Arsenal supporter. Top of the league, by far the best squad. Treble, quad, who knows what's in our future, but I look forward to finding out. I will tell you, I think we did one of my favorite pods of all time on Friday, and I'd love for you to check it out if you're interested. John McKenzie of The Athletic and Clive and I, for some reason, did a pod together about tactics overall, Arsenal's tactical evolution and what Mikel Arteta is trying to do with diversity of tactical options, the way tactics are evolving in the Premier League generally, set pieces, chance creation, just a beautiful discussion about football, not tinged with narrative or anything like that. So if that is up your alley, you could use code AVP50 if you want. And for a couple of quid, check out the Patreon and listen to that episode. I think you'd really love it. We went to Chicago, Paul and I. Well, Paul didn't go to Chicago. He just existed in Chicago as he always does. I went to Chicago. We met with the Chicago Gooners for their Gooner Palooza event. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. In the past, those events have not always led to good results for the Arsenal. In this case, they did. We watched both the Arsenal game and the Liverpool game together and had a nice little Q&A session afterwards. And so to everyone we met there, loved every minute of it. It was really a beautiful time. So thanks for that, and look forward to meeting more people in the future. We've got lots of good Patreon stuff coming this week and a big announcement. We're going to put out our first series of pre-produced content. So this week, the first 2 episodes will drop. Next week, the next 2 episodes. And then in the next international break, the last 4 episodes will come out of our Cup Winners' Cup series. It's about the 1994 Cup Winners' Cup that Arsenal won. It features great football minds like Clive and like Tim, but also great football minds like Amy Lawrence. Some of the players were interviewed. Gary Lewin was interviewed. Kent Malmrose produced it and hosts it, and we're going to put that out on our feed here. So everyone will have a chance to listen to that. Something fun for the international break. And if you like it, we can do more produced content that tells interesting Arsenal and football stories in the future. So something we're excited to try out. So thanks for any feedback you want to give us on that. By the way, I never mention it, but if you would give us a 5-star review on whatever app you listen on, apparently that is the single best way for people to discover the podcast. And so we'd appreciate it. If you want to give us a 1-star review, just email that to Paul. But if you want to give us a 5-star review, we'd love it. Okay, there's lots going on, and we got a lot to talk about Arsenal-wise, so I apologize. 3.5 minutes, a little bit gratuitous from me, but we're going to trade that off with a fantastic podcast with Paul, who is here now. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo!
And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Clive, how was your weekend?
Yeah, all right. Well, obviously went to the game at the weekend. It's quite nice. Nice sort of 3 points, had a few drinks, did an IR.
Felt the wind in your hair. It was a breezy day. Did you have to put extra hairspray? I'm just kidding.
A very breezy day. So the next, not quite winter jackets out, but jackets out, suede boots are out. You know what I mean? It's all get the autumn gear out, and it's good fun. Nice steady day and good points, and then get home quickly to catch the second half of Liverpool Chelsea, and happy days, right?
Happy days. The vibes definitely feel like they're coming around, and it just feels so nice to go into this break in this position in the table compared to where we were after Liverpool pulled out a ridiculous free kick to beat us. And then when we went into the last international break, and I think it's funny, we did a Friday Night Clive a couple of weeks back, and I said, look, I think the way Liverpool are playing is indicative of a team that's got problems. And if this is indicative of who they're going to be going forward, I said defiantly on that podcast, I do not think Liverpool Football Club will be topped by Christmas. And I was wrong because they're not topped by October. So, Clive, before we even talk about the game. And we'll break down the West Ham game, of course, because it's something we're going to always do. But I think it's more fun to start with where we are in the title race, how it feels to be top, the position we're now in, back at the top of the table with everyone chasing us, and what you make of this dynamic and the chasing pack in Liverpool and City, because it is, I think, proof of concept right now. They powered up their attack and left holes in their squad. We decided to just fill out the squad and try to stay deep. Right now, I think our approach looks like the one that might have been better suited to run the course. But what's your take on being top as of today, October 6th?
Well, I love it. And if you think about when the fixture list came out, none of us were thinking we'd be top by now. We're thinking, with that fixture list, can we just be in the room? Can we stay close? We know Liverpool are good front runners. What I was thinking is, stay close to them. We've got to keep them under pressure because I don't think they're great under pressure. Now, the fact we've ended up on top is just a bonus. But it also has mentality issues for us and maybe opens us up to some of that. But when it comes down to it, well, for 6-7 games in and we have a block of games coming up, with Europe included, League Cups included, it's all about attrition, points accumulation. And I feel we're set up for that, even though we've seen clues of play every single time we play a game. Right? So if that can stop, then we're set up for it. And so we all like what we've done, but it comes down to, there's a couple of things there that I want to sort of talk about, because media narratives change very, very quickly. So it's only 2 weeks ago we were being lambasted for not beating City and Liverpool. You know, why haven't you done that? Why haven't you approached it the way we want you to approach it? You're very, very negative, right? So 2 weeks later, everyone's talking, what a great squad they have. They got all the tools. There's no excuses. But there's stuff behind that. So let's go to a couple of things behind that. You got to recruit well. If you buy players and they're the wrong players, you haven't got a good squad, right? So you got to rotate well so that squad is active. So when you call on them, they can produce. And look how many goals were scored by substitutes this year. A lot, right? So, and also something you need to think about that no one ever talks about is our manager is quite good at developing footballers and making them better. So it's like, oh, we just bought this player and bought that player. So actually, a lot of them have improved significantly under his tutelage. Significant improvements, you know, and it doesn't just happen overnight. Just take an example of Big Gabby, for example. Look what he is now on set piece play. Look at his distribution in open play. Look at his passing, his calmness on the ball and the clips and the different range of passes he had. Has he just magicked that in as a 26, 27-year-old? Or has he been working on that? You know, he's completely changed what we look like from that side of the pitch. You know, and it's incredible. And I don't think we talk about it enough. The manager is a supreme developer of talents. Right? Whether you like them talents or not, almost all of them are improved. You know, or what he does, which I think is another major thing with coaching. When you're playing in a stressful environment, you need to have comfort on the pitch. Now, comfort is given to you by the role and how your role interlinks with other players within the group, within your unit, in your job role in that particular game, with the game plan, game model, you want to say, all those big buzzwords. But you must have comfort. When you're comfortable in your role and what you can produce, and it maximizes you, and you can have an impact to the team, that allies to development. That needs to be highlighted by the fact your manager knows who you are. Right? And I think he knows who our players are, and he puts them into a position to succeed. And that's why they look like they're developing. And I think it's a real big skill. And that's why we look deep in our squad, because of good recruitment, good player development, and a plan and a structure which allows people to thrive. And I think now everyone's going, oh, you're a great squad. Well, mate, just look at the man's work. Look at his work. Don't look at not bringing on, although we do, but bring on a sub 10 minutes sooner at Anfield and make that the only thing you talk about. You know, you can't do that. You have to look at the whole body of work. And I think that body of work is starting to permeate through the mainstream. And now we're looking okay at this point in time, at the time of recording.
Yeah. It's 300 games in charge for Mikel, and with his 177 wins in the first 3 games, here's the list: Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, Kenny Dalglish, and he's tied with Jurgen Klopp at 177. So very, very prestigious elite company to be in. Mikel spoke, by the way, about the importance of the squad. Clive, to your point, He says, critical. We're playing every 3 days, and with the intensity that we play, the requirements of the opposition, it's impossible to maintain the same players. So the ones that are coming, they have to lift the level, the intensity, and help us win the game. We talked about many, many times, and in this period especially, I think it's been really, really positive. And I think that aspect that you touched on, Clive, just everybody being involved and ready to come in and contribute, so important, and is going to help us run the course to come, but has certainly helped us navigate a very tricky period, even with absences. Paul?
Yeah, look, I was enjoying letting Clive's words wash over me, as many listeners do, and my mind kind of veered into a slightly different riff, related though, I think. So
I
wrote
find that
down,
believable. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So while I was rewatching, and I recommend anybody with half a mind to do so should do so, because there's nothing more pleasurable than knowing that it turns out okay and then rewatching the performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like you beat them 5-0, but you score 2 quickly early on, and then you start to enjoy the performance. There was a lot more performance there than I thought there was when we were nervous. We were in a pub, and we were waiting for our breakfast to come, and the drinks and stuff. So, yeah, so I wrote 2 words down after about 22 minutes, and those 2 words were total football. And I'm really, really enjoying what this team has recently become over the last few games. I'd been saying I was waiting for the final piece, which is our attack to be a joined-up attack. And now the whole pitch, it's gone beyond that. The whole pitch is joined up. We had, 10 outfield ballers on the pitch, and they were all interchanging beautifully. Maybe Gabby Magliesh is more like a complete defender than a complete total footballer, but everybody else on the pitch, maybe Gyokeres is a kind of a 2.5D striker, kind of an old-fashioned striker. Every other player on the pitch, from the goalkeeper to Timber to Calafiore to Rice as a DM. Rice was, even before we made the Zubimendi switch, moving all over the place. Everybody was playing. Now, it wasn't perfect, right? It wasn't the perfect automatisms. It was at like 80-85%. But if you go back and watch it, I think the reaction of many people was after Zubimendi came on and we had a more classic structure, that we started playing our better football. I'm not so sure. I think there was some really good football being played before, during, and after. There was a 10-minute part of our game where it wasn't great because, Martin Odegaard was limping a bit, and we were kind of all waiting to see how that turned out. It wasn't a perfect performance, but I think if a couple of the goals, a couple of those build-up plays where we moved it around had turned into the actual goals they deserved, we'd be cooing about the play more than the fact that the goals came from still well-deserved spots, but not that flowing. We have total football, and in a way it's not as structured as before. Like, the wingers do not have to stand on the touchlines at the moment. Maybe that'll change, but we've seen it in a few games. Trossard, Calafiore, those guys are just roaming around. It doesn't always have to have somebody on the touchline at the moment, and it's almost Wengerish in terms of the freedom the players. There's a lot, maybe more structure if you went back and looked, but it's it's a beautiful hybrid between structure, kind of a total football approach, and Wenger flowing football with creativity from all over the pitch. And it's really, really nice. And when it hits 100%, they're going to be cooing about Arsenal, not just how complete our squad is and the depth and, yada, yada. They're going to be cooing about the football.
It's getting harder to pin down a formation or a role. I mean, Calafiore looks a lot like Zinchenko in the role he has right now in terms of popping up everywhere. Timber had that shot,
but
where
gets much further up the pitch than he's much freer than Zinchenko was. Zinchenko was free in the midfield. Calafiore just goes wherever, and Rice goes the other way, and Zubimendi will pop and back. Yeah.
It's really interesting to see that evolution. Well, Clive, before we get into the game any further, though, I do want to just back up for a second and talk big picture more, because here's what I think is really interesting. The shame of last season and the injuries is that Liverpool never got pushed, and they had what was a very serene run to the title in the end. And my stock falling, actually, in our instant reaction, was Liverpool's Serenity. If you look at the noise around them right now, it's not just that they're not first or that they've lost 3 consecutive games. It's also the drama of their games. And we've experienced this, Clive, a couple seasons ago. It's nice to have games where the emotional level is low. And outside of the big games, outside of City, Liverpool, Newcastle, we've had 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 5-0, 3-0, games where we've got it under control, 20 shots to 4, 73% possession, and there's just not much to even get too worked up about. Whereas Liverpool are either scoring a late winner or losing a late goal at the end of every game. The drama level there feels so high. So what do you think about that component of it? The fact that right now, the level of serenity at Arsenal versus the comparative level of drama at Liverpool creates a much different dynamic for this title race than what we were treated to last season.
Yeah, well, the nature of, well, I agree with that statement, first thing. But the nature of football is we're only one tweet away from a drama anyway, and it'll be us soon. So let's not pretend we're going to just be on the path to green and that's the end of it, because there'll be something that happens that we'll get dragged into a refereeing decision where we are top of the pops, right? And basically, for the first time in a long time, it feels like we're not the talking point for something, you know? So, of course, because we're Arsenal people, we create one ourselves, right? So people talk about atmosphere and talk about this. And can we just accept the fact that we're really on the path upwards and we're okay? Nothing in life is perfect. And but this is a time to sit back and have a breath and say, you know what, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. We'll hopefully get a few people back from fitness, and they're closer by every minute. And we can go on this, we can build again, because we're going to be playing every 3-4 days for a long time now. So I think there's that angle. I think with Liverpool, I thought John did an unbelievable section on Liverpool on Friday. As good as you'll get from a podcasting point of view. But from my point of view, I'm a big believer in stability provides serenity, right? And I think Liverpool have been destabilised by some of their transfer movements. They haven't stabilised in fullback area. They haven't stabilised in centre-back area. If you can't keep the ball out of your net, you leave yourself, you run a risk, right? I know it's the boring side of football, the off-the-ball side and the zero on the score sheet against, but it allows you time to see the stuff that you love, Elliot, the attacking side of things. You have to have a solid base to do that. If you can't keep people away from you, then you're in trouble. I don't care what team you are. I've just never seen it before. And Liverpool have been destabilised. And they've been destabilised at fullback. Maybe at centre-back, they've now left themselves a little bit light. They're pulling back Gravenberch into centre-back rather than play Joe Gomez at centre-back. In midfield, McAllister's not been himself this season. Slobodsai's been really, really good, but used as a fullback. Gravenberch is doing 5 jobs, right? So Curtis Jones maybe not trusted. And then up front, they're trying to blend people in. And while they've lost their major stabilising factors at the back, they've also lost a key link to their best player in Salah. And suddenly, they have a few tactical issues to resolve. And it's going to be interesting to do that. How you resolve these tactical issues without stability, of maybe having the right selections in the fullback area. Because everyone likes an overlapping fullback, but this Liverpool team could probably do with a Hincapi. And if they have him in their team, they could roll up down one side and roll into a 3. And it's just about, they chose 2 fullbacks for me that are better in the other team's half. Right? So it's just about stabilising that. And without stability, you risk things. You risk the chat that's happening at Liverpool, and they've lost 3 games in a row. Right? And they haven't controlled hardly any games this season so far. In fact, the one they controlled the most was probably against us because they didn't move.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other. But when they tried to move and play, they're getting run through a little bit. So this is the rhythm of football, right? As I said it 2-3 weeks ago, we were talking, and on this podcast, we have to hold our hands up and say, why are we playing Mikel Merino in this position? Why are we doing this? Why are we not picking this player? Why are we not picking that player? And it can change. And we were the ones, even though we're sitting second in the league, that were having the serenity issue, shall we say. This can turn very, very quickly with one bad substitution, with one bad selection, with one bad result, and suddenly we are it. So I'm not going to crow yet, but I do think Liverpool have some tactical issues, which I do not think are easy to resolve.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I think there's serenity for fans, and I think there's serenity for the players in game, the intensity and the exertion and the emotion of a game. And we've had games that we could cruise through. We have 7 clean sheets. They have 2. They threw away a lead in the Community Shield. They threw away a lead to Bournemouth. They threw away a lead to Newcastle, right? They keep throwing away leads. And in some instances, getting late winners, big exertion right to the very end. Some games, they're getting late losers. But for us to have these games that are 73% possession and it's 2-0 and it's a bit of a walkover towards the end, I think that goes a long way to helping a team run the course, to just stay at an emotional stability for the players. Set aside the fans, because I agree with you, Clive. You're only one something happening from the media creating a big story. But I think from a player standpoint,
sorry,
that's
can I just
how you help. Yeah, go ahead, please. Mm-hmm.
I branched off there a little bit because I think it's something that Tim said. He said it before. I was just about to say it. We could do with a boring 3-4 weeks. Just a boring 3-4 weeks. Just a boring 3-4 weeks. And this is what Saturday was. It was a boring 2-0 at home. Everyone turned out, has a few beers, goes home. Let's laugh at everybody else. We need a few of those. Really boring, really average. Let's just get through them and accumulate points. Right? And and then forget about it. And maybe we had 2 of those in a week, Olympiacos and West Ham. Well, West Ham a year ago, similar data numbers, but we lost the game, and the year before very similar. So we look much more efficient now when it really matters. So yeah, really pleased with the boringness of this game.
Yeah, I mean for Liverpool, even the boring games, Burnley 1-0 away, it was a late penalty to rescue it. So they're just going right to the final whistle every game at peak emotional and physical intensity. Paul?
Yeah, my analogy formed while you lads were chatting. Like, you're going under the knife for heart surgery, and they got 2 surgeons for you. They got Arsenal and they got Liverpool. And do you want Arsenal to calmly, slowly do the procedure and get to where they need, or do you want blood all over the walls till the 94th minute of the operation?
Yeah,
they're packing the organs back in, trying to get you sewn up, get you all done, and like, it's all right at the end, okay, they've got your family in the corridor, the nurses are going back and forward with the message, and it's like very exciting for them. But I'm sure they'd want Arsenal as their heart surgeon at the end of the day, no matter how much fun they had with Liverpool doing the surgery. And to your point, eventually that catches up to you in surgery and in football.
Yeah. I think Chris Rock did a bit about people saying marriage is boring, and he's like, you want marriage to be boring. You know what you don't want? You don't want an exciting marriage. Your wife cheated. That's exciting. Your husband got arrested. Yeah. That's exciting. You want boring. And that's the point, right? Like, I've always thought the neutral hates us because we're boring, but boring is actually a really efficient way to run a season. Let's get into the game a little bit more, Paul. And I do want to say, it was a really fun moment to be there with you in Chicago. Not because you're
not going to ruin this now.
Not because of your company. Hang on, I'm getting there. But because we did a pod on Thursday, and a Paul and Elliot pod is not going to break any of our records for listenership. So let me just recount to you when I said to Paul, I've got a little inkling for Rice, Odegaard as a midfield. And Paul said, Elliot, absolutely fecking no chance, mate. So for me to be in Chicago when the lineup came out, staring deeply into Paul's eyes and asking if he had any comment on that was a really enjoyable moment.
I got one message from you that day, I think that morning, and it was basically, I told you so, which I think is rather low grade.
I would never do that. But all kidding aside.
Can I say on that? I'm going to do the classic, I was wrong, but in many ways I was right.
Please.
In the more important ways. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was completely wrong. He did the thing you said. But I think we saw how it played out, that actually with Zubimendi at midfield, and Zubimendi didn't look particularly charged, which was your concern, Elliot, that he was played out. And I was like, play him, he'll be fine.
And he was. And he changed the match, and he was fantastic. So you really, even in being wrong, you were totally right. But
I was right. Although, I will also contradict myself by saying, actually, I think that's kind of how we remember the game. I think we were really good beforehand, too. I think Declan Rice does that curvy ball over the top that puts Saka in behind where he's offside. That's a brilliant little bit. Like, he's doing Zubimendi stuff too.
You mean the one that Saka scores from, but he's just slightly off?
Yeah. He's
yeah.
offside.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice because we celebrated 3 goals, even though 2 stood. But that was a lot of fun celebrating that with you, Elliot. That was the first time we threw ourselves into each other's arms.
And there were other moments. Odegaard slipped Saka in for the cutback that winds up leading to the scramble where Eze blazes over from close range from the volley. Yeah. There were good things happening there. And I think Mikel said something that I think we should really keep in mind that these injuries have done. This is another, I think, feather in Mikel's cap. You come up with a game model. You come up with a plan for a game. That lineup, that way you start. I know Clive says lineups, he doesn't focus on starting 11s, but the way you start the game is indicative of the strategy that you employ for that game. And when you have to make an injury-enforced substitution in the first half of every game, not only are you losing a sub window to change the game, but your game model is out the window. And Mikel spoke about that. And, I think that is a real issue. He's on the quality off the bench. He said, that's what we want, but it's not ideal because we had a really clear intention with the lineup, what we wanted to do. And that lasted very few minutes because of the injury to Martin. But the good thing is we can bring on somebody else and be a little different, but it's still very, very efficient. So, Clive, we didn't get to see the midfield of destiny very long. A neon knee. Here's my destiny. The neon knee clash for Odegaard. He then tried to stay on, and I do wish sometimes these players were a little less brave and would just come off if they're not well. I think it's the second time this season.
It's very painful doing a rewatch for that 10 minutes when Odegaard, because you're just waiting all the time. It's very unpleasant, as unpleasant for me as it was for him.
I assure you it wasn't. But
okay.
the second time this season, Odegaard has tried to stay on and just not really been able to gut it out. And I will say there's been news of an MCL injury. I want people to understand MCL injuries can be very, very minor. So I know there was a panic because you hear MCL, you think ACL, PCL, MCL. These are the things you don't want. An MCL strain can be 2-3 weeks. So I don't think we will be without him.
It's great having you on the pod for the medical stuff, Elliot.
Yeah, well, that's my medical degree coming in handy. I got it from the Google.com Academy. But Clive, I do want to get your take on how the Rice Odegaard as a midfield was working or not working. It wasn't our best moment in the game, but it was also so briefly together at its peak. So did you see any hints about what Mikel wanted to do with that trio?
So, yeah, MCL. I've literally got one now, and it's just a little strain. Not a big deal. Just got to exercise.
Technically, you have one in both legs.
Yeah. And right leg.
And you're fine.
Inside of the knee. Mm-hmm. And no one cares about me walking from the 12 pins to the game, do they? Don't give a monkeys, right? So,
I do, Clive.
So when I saw the midfield and when I saw the starting 11, I went, oh, this is interesting. We're going to attack them. West Ham, we're going to sit back. Nuno's here in town. We're going to push them back. This should be fun. So as I'm walking to the game, let me ring up Elliot. He must be buzzing with his team selection. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I ring up Elliot. He's buzzing with the team selection. Maybe it's a bit early. He wasn't buzzing, but he was like, because I was fresh out of the pub, so I was buzzing.
Still buzzing from the night before, so to speak.
And I was interested to see it. But what I saw, I honestly didn't feel comfortable with it, right? So I'm not being dramatic here. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. I was looking at it, and we were playing the ball around. There was one bit where Odegaard comes in, Calafiori pushes up, Odegaard runs from right-sided, sort of 10, 8, all the way across to left 6 to receive it, to then give it away. And then he runs back again. And I'm looking at it. There's no dramas here because West Ham weren't a threat. So we'll just have a chance to have a look at Arsenal. I'm looking at Eze and Odegaard both dropping quite close to Declan Rice. Declan Rice then runs it out to Saka and gives it to him 5 yards away. All Timber pushes in. This is all stuff that we were doing, trying to work West Ham out and move them around. But there was just one bit, and from my seat that I saw, that I just didn't like. And I was probably overly nervous about West Ham because I've seen them beat us a couple of times. So I carried them scars in. Everyone else is probably sitting there thinking, what are you worried about, Clive? We're going to beat them. But I just saw we sort of not win a duel in the middle of the pitch, and as they got pushed off the ball, and they kept the ball for 3-4 minutes, and I just thought, I don't know if I like this. Because when that ball's bouncing in midfield, I want my man to go and get it, and then we create transitions on them, and they're disorganised. And that's the bit of the game I think we've really improved on in the last couple of years. And so no dramas. When Odegaard went down, I sort of said, I said, this might not be the worst thing. And I tell you why it wasn't the worst thing. because Mikel Arteta saw maybe what I saw. Because if he thought it was the right thing to continue with this, he'd have brought Ethan on. Right, but he didn't. He brought on somebody else because he felt he needed to stabilise us in there. There was nothing going wrong. And I felt as soon as we brought Zubimendi on, we had a different point from the base of the team. We had a different point in the glue position, the do-it-all position, where he's just clear with those rotations. And Eze had a move sides, and he to the position that he'd played the last few games in. And suddenly there's a bit of clarity. So we got the shot from Eze, and I just liked it. Now, I will say, and everyone knows the podcast and that knows, Elliot would love to see those two sort of 10s and a 6 covering all the danger behind them, and we play from there. And there is nothing wrong with that. And by the way, when we did it at Newcastle, I was cheering it. Do you see what I mean? But from the start of the game, I wasn't too sure. I think we'd have found a way, Elliot, because Odegaard was bouncing around looking sharp, and we'd have found a way eventually. But I was not unhappy. Also, I don't wish any injury on Martin Odegaard. I was not unhappy when that change was made, and I thought it was the right change. And nobody on here is saying we should have brought Ethan on instead of Zubimendi. Yeah. Which tells you it was the right change. And it's all about balance, isn't it? It's all about balance. And I felt the balance. I loved the balance between Rice and Zubimendi. I love it. You know, I think psychologically, physically, attribute-wise, profile-wise, I think it's almost perfect. I think they bring the best out in each other, and they support each other because they need to support each other, just as things they do slightly differently. And I think it's really, really a really wonderful pairing.
Yeah, and I mean, it is horrible for Odegaard to get injured again. I think we saw him this season when he's played. I think he's looked like he's rounding into some sensational form. But at some point, to be your best, you have to play regularly. And this stop-start nature of his seasons, of getting a few minutes and then being back out of the lineup and being back on the training table, I'm sure it's extremely frustrating for him. And it just prevents him from integrating with all these new pieces. I mean, you look at how he and Gyokeres were starting to link up against Olympiacos, what that partnership started to look like. And I'm sure he wants to figure out Eze's cadence and rhythm and Zubimendi's. You know, he's played with him a bit before, obviously, but just not getting that opportunity, I'm sure it's extremely frustrating for him. And Mikel spoke about it and just said, you know, it's terrible for him and it's terrible for us. He has looked great, but the fact that we can take him out, bring Zubimendi in, but still have a player, I think, that has some similar capacities in Eze to stay in midfield is a luxury we didn't have last season when Odegaard was out. So that is a big improvement. And again, not that we expected to be without Odegaard this season, but I think Eze was signed sort of in response to Kai's injury, but he's been a really handy piece of the puzzle to have around, with Odegaard being in and out of the team. Worth mentioning, though probably not analyzing, that this game started with a very, very quick corner for West Ham where they probably should have been 1-0 up. And I got messages from people saying, you cannot believe how windy it is in London. And I don't think I've ever seen Raya flap at a corner. There was some flapping. There were some weird things happening when the ball was in the air in this game. He flapped at that corner, and it could have been 1-0. You know, we dodged a bullet there. I think after that, it was mostly a comfortable day, but I'm not going to pick on Raya too much for that one. So, Paul, the Odegaard injury happens, and I think it is, you know, probably worth discussing Zubimendi just a little bit more. He creates both of the goals. He creates the first goal with the pass in that winds up leading to the Eze shot. By the way, great contact from Eze, and if it falls to Rice, he scores. He's the one who makes the chip pass to Timber for the penalty that we got. But his introduction really did seem to change things. And for people that maybe have struggled to connect to Zubimendi's game, this was a great opportunity to see exactly how he influences a game. And you know, when we talk about drama in a game, one of the things we're not seeing anymore this season is our deepest midfielder with his number facing goal running like mad to recover anything. We're very much in position, organized well, and this was a game to really appreciate his influence. So obviously that was a turning point. Not that we couldn't have won it had Odegaard stayed on, but do you see it similarly?
Yeah, like I say, I feel we were creating the chances before that, right? We had 2-3 situations where certainly 2 big situations before the Zubimendi substitution, where we thought we had a goal. We thought we should have had a goal. Gomez scrambles. So the play was good, but certainly with Zubimendi, there was a more recognizable structure. And I think it's a barbell thing with him. He had two key moments with us. Outside of that, he was mostly tempo, right? It was very Arteta at DM, where the world is saying, well, he didn't do anything. He just moves it from side to side. Most of his game is to not be the story, which, like phenomenally generous mentality where you don't care that you're lighting it up or you're not lighting it up. If it needs it, you go for the zip. Otherwise, you just keep looking for, is it better to play it to the left or to the right? Is it better to play it back or to the left or to the right? And like, he's just the classic tempo guy that for years I didn't really get in football, but now, you judge a tree by its fruit. How do you judge Zubimendi? By how
His
well we
fruit?
move the ball around. Yes, by his fruit.
Keep going.
By his plums.
Yeah.
And he moves it around. It's like, it's not him. I'm not the story. I'm just the guy who passes it to the other guy. And there's just this sense of tempo. But like, he's the guy who avoids the horseshoe. Okay, you need the players to help you avoid it. But he helps you avoid the horseshoe by maybe going back to the same side again, by zipping it up to a guy who's Calafiore's in midfield for a reason. And those guys are moving all the time, knowing that Zubimendi, because that's the thing. When you move into that spot, you need the guy who'll find you with the simple ball, and he does it all the time. But it still won't look like that much. But meanwhile, our team, we had no horseshoe of death, despite the fact that that was exactly what they were looking for. There was zero of horseshoe of death with this. There was always, as a Calafiore moving Timber. How often did you see Timber not be fullback or even kind of over to the right near Saka? Like, they were just interchangeable. There were 2-3 times where it was like, oh, Saka, no, that's Timber who's through.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And the fullbacks are such an interesting case study because you look at what Liverpool tried to do with the fullbacks they recruited this summer, flying, overlapping fullbacks, stroke wingers in Gyokeres and Frimpong, and it hasn't really clicked for them. And you look at Timber's involvement and Calafiore and the role we have for him. Clive, the dynamics of how our midfield is interacting with the fullbacks and the forwards, it's very, very difficult, I think, to pinpoint a position or a role they're taking up. And it does seem to be a little relational in the sense that they are going to create overloads and they are going to create combination opportunities and make sure the distances are good between players. And they're both doing it brilliantly. But I'm curious your take on this, because there is a lot more what I would regard as positional freedom for all of these players in terms of the roles they're taking up.
Yeah, there is. There is, and they're asking a lot more of each other. They are much more collision-based and really working hard off the ball. I mean, I've just rewatched the Martin Odegaard, and I remember the Eze challenge that he didn't win. And I remember thinking Odegaard's now taking on extra responsibility to go into tackle because he has to. Because the reason why he knows he has to is because he needs more of an all-court game. Because there are more players around that can play the game of football for Arsenal Football Club. So I need to do more. Right, so, and this is happening. So, classic example this week, Olympiacos, we played 2 different fullbacks, and Declan Rice sat down. Right, and in the first half of this game, the best 3 players on the pitch were the ones that didn't start the game on Wednesday. The 2 fullbacks and Declan Rice. And this is what's happening in the squad. We're able to now bring people in with an edge. Like Timber, I don't know what he had. He had his Weetabix for breakfast. He was everywhere.
he's
right?
incredible. What a player he is.
Absolutely everywhere. Storming through people. Just literally driving into space and with control. Like he's looking like the LeBron running downhill in this game. And then you got Calafiore. Well, I need to rewatch it 5 times to work out what he was doing. Right? Because he was everywhere again. There was freedom there. So when you got people causing problems and moving and driving and popping up in areas, well, why are you going to pass around? You pass through, don't you? Because you've got people showing to pass through. I do think there's a wonderful simplicity about our attack at the moment. And Zubimendi's part of it, but they're all part of it. When there's a chance to move, and if it's a lateral diagonal or just run through, they're running through. Elliot, how many times you heard me say the word, we need to run through the back line a bit more? You know,
Yeah.
I just bored you for a year with it. You haven't heard it this season, have you? You know, so because we're running through those lines, and the thing that differentiates with Mendy is I always think when we did our scouting on him, I actually uttered the words, he's the most important Arteta signing of his era. And I sort of blurred it out. What have I said here? What have I said? Right, but I sort of stand by it because I think directionally what he does is exactly what this team needs. He sees the opportunity to pass and he passes it. If he's on his left foot, he still passes it. If he's bobbling, he still passes it. He passes it where it's meant to go. And this direction, this simplicity of forward direction, is driving forward movement. Movement activates the pass. When movement up front, suddenly we're passing to the runners. And suddenly teams are being shattered. They're being split open rather than standing there comfortable in their distances in a block. Right? So I think it's the evolution of this team is just brilliant. You know, and I don't think it's one player. I think it's everybody. It's the behaviours of everybody. When you see people reacting, always look at turnovers, Elliot, as a measure. Look at turnovers, whether defensive turnover or offensive turnover. Defensively, mate, the moment the other team gets the ball, the manager claps his hands and the rest of those troops just steam in and get the ball back immediately. And when we have the ball, you look up and straight away there's 3 runs. Not, how can we get it to Saka? And then we start moving. It's just 3 runs. And sometimes, you know what, Elliot? Sometimes we just boot it forward. You know that? We just boot it forward. There's no... How many times... I'd be interested to see the data on possession loss for Gabriel and Saliba. Sometimes, you know what? Rather than take it down, go back to keeper and then roll out, they just boot it forward. And we put the back line under pressure. And that'll be a possession lost. Actually, it's putting West Ham under pressure until they break. And I don't think we tired teams out enough with our offensive penetration and just playing in the right areas. So it's been a real transformation. And I'm not saying every game is the same, because it's not. But against these lower teams, mid to lower teams, this is how you need to do it. You know, and my only issue really in the last 2 games, Olympiacos and West Ham, is that Martinelli missed a chance in the first 5 minutes against Olympiacos when he shouldered it. And Eze missed a golden chance in this game when he skied over the bar.
Yeah.
If we get those games, I think they're both 3-0 games that we've won 2-0. Right? So let's just sort that out, shall we? If I'm being pernickety, because then we can really up the goal difference, because those goals should have been finished off, right? And but that's it. It's I'm loving the evolution, mate. I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, and this is what I mean about Serenity. Serenity is 46 touches in the opposition box to 8, right? Serenity is out shooting a team 21-4, out XGing them 2.77 to 0.49. Serenity is having periods like in the first half where you go 11 shots to 0 and you have 72% of the ball. We finished with 68%. These are just games that you wind up cruising through. And I do agree, if Eze scores in the 13th minute there, this might become one of those 5 or 6-0s again. But you know, at the end of the day, it was a low drama game, and that's what you're looking for. I want to talk a little bit about Viktor Gyokeres' performance. I think maybe different perspectives on it. I want to talk about Declan Rice, who hasn't always had his best performances against West Ham, but I think was as good as can be in this game. And a little bit about maybe just some of the things that we have coming up ahead. So we'll do that, but I know at this point you're saying, Elliot, what if I need a hiring partner, or what if I need a VPN, or what if I need to shave my privates? And I don't know how to live my life without hearing about those things. So you know what? Let's hear about those things now. And this hiring partner thing, Indeed, that's the one. There you go. Indeed is a hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. The whole idea behind this, and I look at it this way. I think hiring is a really, really bad experience, both for the hiring entity and the person trying to get hired, because there's so many sites you have to monitor. There's so many algorithms and AIs and things like that you have to navigate. And even if you are the most qualified person, you can feel like you're never going to get noticed. So with Indeed, it brings the best quality candidates to the right jobs. And that's good for the hirer and the hiree. Okay, with sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference because according to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. That's really good. Okay. That means the right people are finding the right jobs and you're finding the right candidates if you're the hirer. So I love that. How fast is it? In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no monthly subscription, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring. Indeed's all you need, Clive. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Got it. Okay, Paul. I wanted to ask you about Viktor Gyokeres before we come to Declan Rice. And I think possibly this is one that's going to divide opinion because it's a game where he doesn't score. I don't think it's a game where he was super involved. I think he completed 5 passes in this game. And, for that reason, I think he could be hard to see. But having said that, I also had a lot of people reach out, Clive included, to say how important his running was, in the way he pushed the defensive line back. So I think we should get a little section on Gyokeres. There's always like anxiety about striker at Arsenal, I feel like, over the last several years. And there's a need, an urgency to sum up strikers. It was that way with Kai. It was that way with Lacazette. It feels that a little bit that way with Viktor Gyokeres. But what did you make of his performance in this game, Paul, in terms of the good and the bad or the indifferent?
Let me tell you what I liked about him, which was every time I checked we put in a lot of good crosses, squared balls, not quite cutbacks, but certainly crosses, square balls. He was always where I wanted him to be. 6-yard box, outstretched, got the paw out there, reaching for the ball. It wasn't a game that maybe it was his name in lights, but he was everywhere I wanted him to be, doing everything I wanted him to do, because that would mean that he's in the middle of their low block. So probably wasn't going to be a game that, short of knocking in a toe poke or getting his noggin on the end of one of the crosses that comes in, where it was his chance to shine because we had them so deep. I mean, our pressing numbers were off the chart as well. It wasn't just they were sat in. Our pressure was relentless. It was it was on the chart actually, because PPDA numbers are the lower the better, right? Really low PPDA number, really high defensive line from our side. So we just had them crammed in. He was in the center of it, banging bodies, and we had a lot of good situations of balls bouncing around. So in a way, I think it's a hard game to judge him on. What I would almost judge him on was did the Gyokeres thing work, in the sense of, was it the horseshoe of death where we couldn't find a striker, or actually were we moving them around? Were we cutting them apart? And we did continually, with Gyokeres always in the right spot when those balls came in. So I really quite liked that aspect of how we played with him. Had the ball just been a little closer to him a couple of those times, I think he comes away with a goal in that. And a little bit of generosity within the team. It's nice to see, like, Saka wanted to take that penalty, and maybe it was the occasion that was in it with his 4,000th game for Arsenal or whatever we were celebrating at the time, but it was a day that Saka wanted a goal, and Saka was angry, and he had the tissue up his nose because he'd just been smacked in the face. And I like Saka when he's angry taking a penalty. And that's another dynamic, it's a minor thing, but it's how well you don't see these players fighting over who takes the penalty. There's an understanding within the team and a balance, and I think it's emblematic of the fact that Gyokeres has come in and very quickly started to play a specific role within the team that everybody else can key off.
Yep. Yeah. And you referenced our PPDA there. That's passes per defensive action. So the lower, the better. In other words, how many passes the opposition can make before you make a tackle or an interception or a ball recovery, something like that. Mm-hmm. So, Clive, you messaged me with some praise for Gyokeres in this game. Obviously, the big moment that I think everybody got frustrated, Leo plays Rice in underlapping in the 51st minute. He slides it across, and Gyokeres just misses what would have been a tap in. Sometimes those go for you, sometimes those don't. We saw it go for him when Eze assisted him against, I want to say, Forest. But moral of the story is, I watched this game, and much like you and Paul, I saw a player running into the right spaces and doing the work. And I think it is important to point out that he's the one player we really don't have a squad option for right now. And he's playing a lot of football. He came in a little bit late in his training cycle. He looks a little faster to me now, a little leaner to me now, but he is playing 90 minutes a lot. And I think, and I'll double check this while you're talking, I think he's right up there for us in terms of outfield player minutes. So as it stands right now, he's just behind Zubimendi and Gabby for minutes for an outfield player. So the fact that he's still doing all those runs for 90 minutes, I think, is a good sign. What was your take on him?
Yeah, so I think the plan was for him to come off and Marino to come on. But because Rice got injured, Marino had to come on for Rice and he had to stay on. If you look at the 3 games, Newcastle, Olympiacos and West Ham, if off the top of my head calculations, he was the only outfield player to play all 3 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he wasn't meant to play the 90s. So this is why I praised him, because late in that game, mate, he had the caravan out. He was pulling it, and he was still running into areas on that chance. He just couldn't get there. I mean, the reason why sometimes I can see things really clearly at the Emirates, particularly when he's coming North Bank end, so I could really see his efforts under stress in the second half. They were right in front of me, and I just couldn't praise him higher for what he was trying to do for the team. What he's added is purely directional. He's become a directional force for this team. And other people are taking the lead from him. I do think there's a message for other people to be more transitional in their behaviours and movements, particularly when we turn over the ball. But he leads that. And he's always there. He's always at the right side. He leaves the space to run into. He curves his run. He's a classic traditional centre forward, a mobile target man that's really robust. He hasn't quite figured everything out yet, but he's quite, he likes the contact. And the centre halves in the Premier League, I mean, you have to leave 2 on. You have to leave 2 around him. And when you leave 2 around him, then there's got to be space for somebody else. I think if you're playing against Mourinho, you could go man for man, right? Go man for man. He's not going to run you. I'm going to fight him. I'm going to put my arm on his back. I'm sending him back towards his own goal if he's not already gone there already. Do you see what I mean? And my danger's going to come from wide areas. So you know what I'm going to do? If you're dangerous from wide areas, I'm going to double up in wide areas and kick their ankles off. Does that sound like last season? Probably a little bit in summary. And that's all it was, right? So I think directionally he's done an amazing job. Now, his best game for me was Newcastle away. And funny enough, the game before that, Port Vale, he had a rest. And he came out Newcastle and was ferocious in a game where we needed him. We needed exactly that. And you know, it's one of my many lines, Elliot, that you've grown used to, is that I used to say that Saka was the first guy over the top. Well, you know what? Gyokeres is the first guy over the top now. He's the lead soldier, right? He's the first guy over the top to go and take the fight. And other people, his teammates must love him. They must love him, the fact he's taking all his contact away from them. He's taking attention away from them. I think he's brilliant what he's actually doing. And so when I heard the press conference, so on the IR, I sent you a note. I sort of sent a note and said, look, I'm not sure what he looks like on data, but I'm really impressed with him. So when I heard the press conference afterwards and Mikel Arteta said, I just got in there and hugged him, paraphrasing. I got in there and hugged him. I thought, yeah, because it's a team game, right? And in a game where he probably wasn't meant to do 90, and everyone could see he was done, yet he kept going. And that's the sort of stuff your teammates will love you for, mate. You haven't checked out. You've kept going for everybody to keep that score the way it was and to give us a target. And I thought he was really, really good. He will come back, but we'll see the best of him when Kai Havertz is back. And the 2 of them can rotate in that position. And then we're going to see a fresh forward, much like we saw a fresh Calafiori and Timber for this game. And it was the difference. And that's got to be the future going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because Mikel made a comment about Calafiori that I think relates to Gyokeres at some level too. On Calafiori, he said a lot of dynamism, sometimes a bit chaotic. But I think his dynamism and the spaces and situations that he can create are very difficult to control for the opponent, especially against a team that is very well organized. You have to disrupt their organization in order to create chances. And I think we've done that really well. And I think Gyokeres plays a similar role from a different position, disrupting their organization because you have to follow his runs. You have to repeat those sprints. You have to respect his ability to get in behind you and battle with you. And that is creating openings in other places. And I realize that can sound like an excuse for a player that's not banging in the goals. I just happen to really believe it. And, you think about like Timber. We're playing Timber a lot. Gyokeres has 100 more minutes than Timber in all comps. The only Zubimendi by a bit and Gabby by a little bit more have played more minutes. So for a player that relies on physical power and running and strength, I think he was very much brought in to be one of two with Kai and in the group. And now he is the group. And by the way, I think this will benefit him long term, because when Kai is back and when he's being picked maybe more horses for courses or used a little more sparingly where he has a full tank of gas, I think that's going to be a huge advantage to us in the run-in. So I'm very, very excited about that, and, not to overstate it, Clive.
Yeah, just one technical thing. This is the one thing. There's always we've all got development opportunities, haven't we, Elliot?
Mm-hmm.
One thing developer on when he's back in the play up, right? When his ball's coming to him, and the service is not always good. It's not always clean. So he's not like Kai. Kai's really good at this. He uses his body really well, and he uses his head really well because he knows he's going to win the aerial battle. So he's got to make a decision what he wants from that duel. If he wants to late round the corner, he's got to get into wrestle contact a bit earlier and then disconnect, right? So, and what these defenders are doing very cleverly, they get into a battle with him. He's leaning on them. Then they are disconnecting on him, and he's falling over, and he's looking like he's not set. If you're set and you get contact, the referee gives you the foul. If you look unbalanced and you're not set and the defender's disconnected and there's no body to lean on, then the defender will 50-50, the referee let it go. So sometimes the ball's coming up and he's not getting the foul and he's not helping around the corner and he's coming back. Now, the plus side is he's still got to engage those defenders, which is really good. He's pinning them. But there's room there to improve. If he can get the wrestling first, then he disconnects, sets his feet. Whatever happens next, he's in charge. Do you see what I mean by that, Elliot? I'm not expecting to jump off the ground and win all the headers like Kai does. I think in the penalty box he can attack headers, but he's not a vertical jumper per se. He's a runner. But I just think that little detail there, backing in, holding, pinning, making sure you keep the defender there that he can roll off of, but set your feet so the referee will give you the foul. He will not give you the foul if your arms are up in the air and you're not set. Do you know what I mean? So small detail stuff, it'll come. In Portugal, mate, if the defender touches you and you fall over, Elliot, we've been there. It's a free kick, right? Straight away. He has to realise this is the Premier League and there's Michael Olivers everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Paul, obviously, there was a chance for Gyokeres to get a goal. It's a penalty. I think it's a foul that continues into the box, so I'm comfortable with it being a penalty, obviously. Maybe the PGMOL is saying, we kind of screwed you last time. So what do you make of Saka taking the penalty there?
Yeah, maybe it was the occasion, but there didn't seem to be much debate. There was a little bit of, Saka's got the ball, so somebody else will take it, but that wasn't how Saka had the ball. Saka had a ball like a guy who was going to take it, and like I say, I think he hit it mean and angry, banged it into the corner. No keeper, really, apart from Donnarumma. If he jumps that side and goes about half a second early, might have got there. But Saka buries it. It was kind of a no-drama thing. There are days I feel a little more nervous depending on who's stepping up and how, but I didn't really question it. I thought he was going to bury it. The bloody tissue hanging out of the nose is always a good look. And I don't know if he still had it in at that stage, but he was certainly pissed off and angry. And he talked to, I think he was asked afterwards about, getting stick from fans for doing a bit of limping on the pitch, which it's a bit like booing your war wounded when they come back from the war for, looking for a little sympathy as they're on the crutches with the Band-Aid around their head. But, he kind of said, he takes it as, I thought he handled it lovely. He says, I take it as a compliment that, people are trying to take him down all the time. But you saw it in this game, like every time he got it, every time Martin Odegaard got it, unfortunately, they're coming in to take you out. And you see Saka's, like the joke of it all is, how many times does Saka skip over the incoming tackle that's coming in from him? If you think he's looking for every collision, every foul, the boy wants to play. The best footballers like Messi, right? He's the archetype, or like Maradona, or like Cruyff, or like Pele. They don't want to go down because they know they can hurt you with the ball. They're going to try and ride that tackle. Saka rides 9 out of 10 foul tackles that come at him. It's only the egregious ones that clear him out. So yeah, I think he plays angry. He uses that as fuel. And I think he used it as fuel for the penalty. I don't know if that was enough for you on the penalty, Elliot. That's where I was going with it.
You're on mute, mate.
Elliot, you might be on mute. And this might be the most sweet moment of my life.
Well, if you wait long enough, you get your comeuppance. But yeah, so it's a beautifully struck penalty. It's 100 goal involvements in 200 games. I'm sure Saka was probably aware of that. Didn't seem like there was any issue with Gyokeres. I mean, Saka just took the ball, placed it, and slotted it. This is a game where he's missed a penalty before this fixture a couple seasons ago in a very painful 2-2 result. So maybe wanting to put some things right there. And I'm sure Gyokeres will take penalties again in the future. But this was a day when Saka wanted to do it. He's the man. He took the responsibility. He put the game to bed. And to my eye, Clive, Saka is playing a little more untethered from his wide position, a little more freedom to come inside and combine. If you look at his touch map, there is more involvement in central spaces. I don't know if you see it that way. Do you?
Yes.
I'm reading Clive say. I'd say that's a no. He doesn't see it that way.
No, he doesn't.
Well, it's pretty. It's what's happening, right? It's been happening for.
Well, okay. Well, then you are seeing it. So we settled that.
Master the bleeding obvious. This Elliot fella, isn't he?
Almost the first time was Bilbao. That's when it started to change for me. That game, that first 25 minutes, told me the new system. That's when I first saw a double pivot. So Bilbao in pre-season, that's when I first saw a double pivot. That's when we saw Saka running down the middle, getting onto the chance and scoring from a central space. And that's when it all changed for me that day. I thought, okay, this is different. So yeah, there's a lot more freedom there. He's on the left, he's everywhere. He just makes sense. It's just like, it's so pleasing. On the penalty, I was actually pleased he took it, by the way. Gyokeres was at peak caravan carrying period. He was absolutely knackered, right? The caravan was swaying in the wind. Mate, this was not the time to give him the ball. Honestly, it was brilliant decisioning. Everything about decisions that were made on the pitch, off the pitch in this game were perfect. Substitutions, everything. The only thing that went wrong was Declan Rice coming off. Otherwise, Marino comes on for Gyokeres. He gets a clap and happy days. If the early goal goes in and we're 2-0 up, Gyokeres takes that penalty, comes off, gets a clap and sits down for 2 weeks and goes to international break. And everyone's happy. That's the only thing that went a little bit wrong was Rice's injury. And so, yeah, so our move, we spoke this on Friday, didn't we? What we're doing in these spaces with double tens almost and letting Saka roam around is just brilliant, and it's what we need to do. And I'm a big believer in fullbacks are the key for everything. They're almost like the balancers. They give you everything you need. We have this thing in the UK and maybe even globally where we think the best attacking fullback is the one that runs around the outside and overlaps. But I just think that's so basic. The best attacking fullbacks is the ones that can combine with other people in forward areas. And they can do really a lot of things on the ball. I think Timber is equally as good as attacking fullback as White. And the reason why, he's more technical on the ball in different areas. And he drives with it. His crossing may not be as soft-shoed. Do you see what I mean? I think White's got a really good cross. But one of the negatives from the Olympiacos game, look, it's a positive time with Top League and it's way beyond my expectations. But it was quite interesting watching White and Miles coming in the week, how one reconnected himself to the team, to his units, and White couldn't quite reconnect himself because he had a different partner in his centre mid. He had a different partner at right wing, and it was just hard for him to reconnect to the group, to the unit, the triangle, which we can all close our eyes and see from last season. We knew where every one of them was standing. Now the game has become more, he says, using buzzwords, relational. He's having to reconnect to the team in a different way, and I think he's finding that more difficult. And you can see the arguments between him and Saliba, and you can see a little fraction there. because he's fighting for his game and he's fighting to get back to the units. When Miles steps in, midfielder by trade, connecting to units is just what I do. You get on the pitch, you just pass to people around you, you roll around them. And he found it really, really easy to connect to the units again. And Timber does it very much like Miles does, but much more bombastically. He's just so quick. And so, yeah, and he's creating space for Saka. He's been cradled on occasions, he's been underlapped on occasions, but he's got support in different ways. And it's he's our best player, right? And all this crap we had to listen to about handbrakes and stuff like that. Well, we all knew as soon as Odegaard and Saka and Eze on the pitch, that conversation is going to just disappear. And it's disappearing now, isn't it, completely?
And there is still a handbrake of sorts because we don't play wildly open games. And if you're not an Arsenal supporter, that looks like a boring game of football that was just played. But that's the kind of boring that an Arsenal supporter should want. A boa constrictor choking the opposition to death with 70% of the ball, 47 touches in their box, conceding almost no shots and taking all of them ourselves. If we're getting 20 shots a game and giving 4 away with 70% of the ball and 90% of the box touches, that's going to work for us. Whether other people like to watch it or not is not my concern. Paul, a thought on Saka's kind of tactical flexibility now?
Yeah, so I'm really glad Clive went to the fullbacks thing, because that's kind of what I saw in this West Ham game. What I've really liked with the Timber evolution of that position is that he doesn't... We had this thing we did with Odegaard, White and Saka, which was really effective, where they got really close together and the opposition team then had to pull all their players to that side and crowd it in. Well, Timber doesn't do that, and Odegaard's roaming around the pitch and sometimes he's not there. And so, kind of like with Mo Salah, they leave Saka in lots of space, so he's isolated 1v1 against his fullback. And the other thing is, Timber's starting to pop up in that right 8 channel, pushing the back line, becoming the second striker at times. And that freedom of the midfield, filling in the gaps that allow Timber to be the more aggressive of the two between Saka and Timber. Mm-hmm. We're seeing an evolution of the attacking game of Timber in a way that is not going to be like Ben White. It's playing to Timber's strengths.
Yep.
He's a bowler. Calafiori on the other side is mixing it all up. He's cutting out to the right, left wing. He'll overlap. He'll underlap. That gets Trossard infield, playing around the middle, getting into dangerous spots. They're just mixing it really nicely on both wings so that they're not really... nobody's really on the wing. They'll rotate in and out. Zubimendi will pop up there. Rice will pop up. He'll drop back. That total football, we've just got very, very total football-y, whereas the Odegaard White Saka thing that works so well is a very tight triangle. Everybody knows what's going on. They kind of can't stop it when we're in form. But if we're a little out of form, or it's a heavy day, or like the ground's heavier, they haven't cut the grass, we can get a little bogged down on that side of things in a way that this more total football, fluid, everybody moving around, anybody can end up anywhere in the front 5 slots, apart from your reference Gyokeres, Rice, Zubimendi, Eze, buzzing around, popping around. I don't know how you know who to mark as long as you're hitting some kind of form and rhythm, and that's what we're started to do over the last few games.
Yeah, that's what Mikel sort of referenced with disrupting them and creating that chaos. And it's really interesting to watch and just see how it is evolving and the way it works with different players. And I will say, by the way, we had a lot more left side involvement, and then Bukayo Saka comes back, and it's like, maybe we'll get it over here more. It's just really interesting to see how the ball finds its way to the good players, you know?
But you might be surprised. It did strike me how much Leo played more than I thought he did. He had a lot of clever balls, crosses. They didn't quite like... The left-hand side is doing plenty. I still agree with you.
It's way more balanced than we've seen in the past, for sure. Yep. I mean, we brought that left side into the game.
We have fixed the left-hand side. I mean, how many times did I say left-hand side, we're not... I was stating the obvious. You weren't there, so I was doing the captain obvious, and I'm like, what's coming from the left-hand side?
Yeah.
And I've stopped that.
Look, to me, the funny thing is we're sort of rounding the corner to being done with this, and we haven't really talked much about Declan, and I just want to quickly get on to him, Clive, because I had him as the man of the match, actually. He scores a goal, covers every blade of grass. His touch map is worth going to look for if you can find it, because it's all the touches everywhere. He really looks to me like he's fully powered up now, and it was a shame to see him go off with that back problem, but of course he's going away with England anyway, so I guess joke's on us. He gave a daggering look, a very stern look at the West Ham supporters after scoring. I think he wanted to make a point in this game. He certainly did, as far as I'm concerned. So any quick thoughts on him, Clive, and a Declan Rice that might be a slow starter in some seasons, but looks like he's fully up to power now?
Yeah, I think he's got a new addition to his family, actually, I believe. I believe it. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but that may be why he didn't go to the Spanish trip early in the season, and he did his own work back here, and he's got himself going. And Declan Rice is not a problem at Arsenal Football Club. After Timber, I hope he's the next contract we look at, and because then we'll be in a really good place going forward, and for the future and for now. So I think he's been transformational since the moment he's walked in. The things that scare me about a football pitch is controlling momentums of game and creating your own momentums, and he does that really well. He controls momentum from the opposition, and he creates some for us when we really need it. The thing I love about him is he does it when the going gets tough. So in the last phase of the Newcastle game, he doesn't go missing and say, I'm tired. He goes up to a new level. We need to get something out of this game. So I'm now turning it up. In some of the easier games, I think he can let it pass him by, and I don't bother. I don't think for a second that's an issue, because he plays every minute of every game for any manager they want him to play. So when he takes the time off during the game, I don't mind it at all, that we're in control of. When the going gets tough, mate, he's there. He's right there in the critical moments. He's been a wonderful signing for his club. He's been completely era-defining. Although I said Zubimendi will be the most important player, I think the player we needed to get us to the next level was this guy, Declan Rice. And I think now we've got a complementary partner for him, which has got on the same age timeline. So really, really good. So I'm pleased that in the last game, there was a game I said something controversial on the podcast. So I think I was proven right thereafter that I think Arteta was mad at him when he played West Ham as a home game, maybe in a cup game or something like that. And he was gone, mate. He was not playing well, and he hooked him. Hooked him, and I said then it was a message to say, stop this crap. Don't let these lot get in your head when you're taking corners. Play your game. You're a good player. Leave them lot behind. And in this game, he played really, really well, scored his goal, give him the stare, Elliot, and continued being brilliant. It's a shame he didn't end the game. There's a little clip of him saying goodbyes to the coaches, all the West Ham coaches after the game, and I thought, yeah, this guy is a quality individual. I'm so glad we signed him. And there were people in the West Ham end that were trying to clap him, to clap him and applaud him, because they know what he's done for that club, right? And and they're not all Mickey takers, shall we say, although they're the ones you hear the most. There are lots of people in that crowd that are really trying to support him, because they know he's done right by them. They know he's left with a bit of quality. He's never said a bad word about them, always references them, always references people like Mark Noble who have really mentored him and supported him for his career. And yet they're still giving him stick, So fair play to him. Just leave it behind you, an Arsenal player now, and just do that when we go to their place.
Can I just stay with you for a second on one final topic then, Clive? There's been some discussion about the atmosphere at the Emirates. I have an opinion on this, but as someone who goes infrequently throughout the season, my opinion carries a lot less weight than someone who is a season ticket holder who goes to every home game. So do you have any thoughts on the atmosphere?
I do think the atmosphere is fine, but I've done with my singing and going around the country, 24 cans of Stella under my arm. I've done that a few years ago, right? So, and there's some people that is their day. What I will say is there are games and there are games. When you're playing, even though I was nervous, I don't think anyone else was about this game. It's a 2-0 game where we scored early, scored at around the 60th minute, and the game saw itself out, right? So I think there's an edginess in the crowd that we're actually quite good, and we're waiting for it to mess up a little bit, shall we say. But there was no issues for me. Let's just do this properly, right? there is a nervousness in there. I think underlying edge there. And we all feel we are really quite good. And there's a pressure on us to win it now. There's no excuses. So when you're watching something, crikey, just let's get this done, can we? Can we just get this done? And let's keep going, just keep going. It's very early at the moment. There is an edginess there. I think that's one side of things. That could be affecting the atmosphere. People talk about balance. They talk about this. I'm honestly, I'm not an expert to talk about that. I'm just telling you how I feel in the ground. What I will say, again, when you get a couple of home games in close succession, you get different crowds going, different people going, the tickets change hands, etc. And going to football is quite expensive, so you're not going to get the same people that can afford to go 3, 4, 5 times in a month on occasions, which has happened before. It's quite expensive. It's not easy now to support the ticket prices and the cost of the food and the drinks in there. So I never really want to criticize on the atmosphere. As long as it's a positive, supportive atmosphere, that's the only job I feel I have. And I'm not going to be singing songs massively, but I'm enjoying the football. I really enjoyed Saturday in my own way, right? So I didn't notice it. And I don't want to see us develop our own crisis.
Yeah.
Let the other teams have a crisis. We don't need to develop our own crisis right now. No, just think where we are and what could be ahead of us. It could be the best year of our lives. It really could be. It's the best squad we've ever had on a squad perspective. And the ages, this is going to get better. And so we've got a lot to be excited about. I just don't want to see us develop our own crisis when we don't need to.
Yeah, I agree with that. Look, I'll give my view on this just quickly, and I'm not sure that anybody particularly needs my view on it, but I think there's a few things. First of all, I don't think there's much atmosphere at the grounds of big clubs. There just isn't. They're very expensive tickets, and most of the games are not high jeopardy. I've seen Anfield. You never walk alone at the beginning, you never walk alone at the end, and a lot of silence in between, unless it's a really hyped up game. Okay? Chelsea, Old Trafford, Etihad. I mean, there's no atmosphere there because there's no fans. The Emirates. These places can make big atmospheres for big games, and they do. And they can make big atmospheres when the game is at a fever pitch, and they do. I was there for the Newcastle game 2 seasons ago when the title went down to the last day. We weren't favored to win it. West Ham, versus City was always going to go a certain way, but it's one of the best atmospheres I've ever experienced. The singing of the song at the beginning, the intensity during the game didn't go very well, so there were some lulls, but it was really incredible. I just think the fact is, and Clive touched on this, ticket prices mean the younger audience that you'd like at football can't always be there. Young people are going to sing more, right? Us middle-aged men, we sing a bit, but the days of singing your lungs
sing
out
when we're drinking. That's all I do.
We're only singing when we're drinking. And so, and there is expectation and there is nervousness. That atmosphere that everybody pines for from a few seasons ago, you're never going to recreate because of 2 reasons. 1, the post-pandemic experience, right? It was pent up. And 2, the stunning and unexpected rise to a title race. We were on a 100-point pace until roughly February. So I just don't think you can recreate that dynamic. I think you have to accept, and it's a shame, but with the price of football and the demographic of football right now, at the big club grounds, atmosphere is going to be intense for certain fixtures, and for others, it's going to be a bit muted. And I understand if people don't want that and want to address it and try to take it on, but I think framing it as a specifically Arsenal problem misses the point. That's my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that have views on this and feel very strongly and have more of a right to have a view on it because of their position, like Clive, as being an everyday match goer. And so whether it can be fixed or should be fixed or what can fix it is an issue. But I'd simply say, don't kick your own club over this. This is not a unique to Arsenal situation. I think it is just football for big clubs in the modern era, So
hey, look, if the media want a narrative to knock us with, let's float something out there that doesn't really hurt us too much. It seems like narratives-wise, it's been a good week or so. All the heat, the spotlight has swung to Liverpool, and all the questions suddenly asked of them. Really no football questions being asked of us right now. Suddenly, Mikel's a genius. Our squad, they're always going to have something. But, maybe we give them this as a narrative to...
Yeah, fine.
If there's a bigger discussion to have around, it's the cost of football. I think it's a lot. I've reached a stage in my life where I can do it. But not everyone can do it. That's why you see tickets on the exchange. People think I can get a few quid back. Hopefully it sells. then when it doesn't sell, they end up going anyway because they don't want to miss out on the losing their ticket. It's expensive, Elliot, for many people. It really is, and I sympathise with that. I think that's a bigger discussion. It's not just expensive at Arsenal; it's expensive across the board. And I think there are opportunities within the game to do things about that as a whole, and think about where money gets sent to and spread about the game. I think we could do more when it comes to ticket prices, more when it comes to food prices. We could do more when it comes to sending money down the pyramid, and we're sending money to the wrong areas of the game, and so we need to do more. But that's a bigger discussion.
Yeah,
that's a discussion that everyone should want to have, right? So for the health of our game, and sort of thing we can do in an international break. When it comes to a relegated I shouldn't say that. When it comes to a lower team, West Ham, when we're in control, we're looking good, and you're going to get what you get. When we're playing Real Madrid at home, trust me, there was no discussions about atmosphere, was there? No.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and it's been that way for a bit. I mean, look, you can go back to Highbury, and there was a reason they called it Highbury Library, right? I mean, I wasn't there. I'm sure there were amazing atmosphere days at Highbury, but, I don't think this is a new issue necessarily either. Okay, we are top of the league. We will be for the next 2 weeks at a minimum. My expectation is we will for the rest of the season, and it'll just be a nice, easy, comfortable run to the title. I don't see there being any bumps along the way. I do think there'll be an interesting conversation to be had about Manchester City and whether they are prepared to reestablish themselves. I think about what Salah did for Liverpool last season. I look at Haaland right now, and it's that same kind of completely unstoppable force that he is becoming. The inevitability of that player is a little bit concerning, but for right now, we are in a great place, and we should enjoy it, and we will enjoy it. And all this week, you're going to get the Cup Winners' Cup content. You're going to get some great stuff over on Patreon that we'd love to have you there for, but most of all, we're just all in this together for what I agree with Clive will be a year of years, a season of seasons, and let's hope that's the case. Okay, we'll leave it there, Paul. Thank you.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elliot Smith. It's going to be a couple weeks without watching us play, but all that time we can soak up the good vibes. We love you, and we will talk to you after Arsenal 10. Full of no.